Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can paint these cute lollipop candies. Earlier it said candles on the video. Not candles, candies, step by step in watercolor. I'm going to break it down for beginners. The traceable is done. I don't know if it's showing on the website, but you can grab it off the Facebook event right now if you need it right now. It's there for you.
Right.
On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He helps me with these right now things and make sure we get this all recorded, make sure that the robotic cameras are pointing at the techniques that I'm demonstrating and explaining, the colors that I'm mixing, and the tools that I'm using, so that if you're following along at home, you get the best possible view. I'm going to go in real-time speed, which means that it should make it a lot easier for you guys to paint along. If you don't have exactly the colors that I have, just pick what you have in your own watercolor palette that's closest. Watercolor is a lot more forgiving than acrylic or oil sometimes in color mixing and how it behaves. So I think that you'll really like this. This is the original that I did for it, and I'll put it aside as my reference. This as the reference is also in the event right now. So if you'd like to print that out so you have your own reference of it, that is perfectly okay. These are little candies, and then these are the lollipops. So that was my plan. I was asked who asked if I was going to be painting these in acrylic as well. Somebody did. I missed it. You knew that, John. John?
What's that?
Somebody asked if I was going to be painting these in acrylic as well.
Rebecca asked.
Rebecca asked.
Did you not hear me ask?
I heard you say that, but I didn't say who was.
It was Rebecca.
Was Rebecca. I need a palette knife. I got a sheet stuck here.
I have a kniff.
I grabbed a painting.
A kniff?
This was last week's lesson.
Your kniff.
I grabbed a painting and I forgot to grab a palette knife, artist knife. It's not anywhere here. It's going to be over there.
Okay.
Because why would I bring it here? That would make things easy. So today I'm going to be painting with Aquasoft watercolor brushes. What's really nice about these is they behave like natural hair, but they didn't actually use animal hair. So this is a synthetic filament that is just like animal hair. And what's great about it is they're very resilient. They hold up incredibly well, and they didn't result in the death of anybody. So sometimes that can be nice.
Made by robots.
Made by robots, from robots by robots. I'm going to remove this page. This is a 140-pound watercolor paper on what is called an artist block. The block helps keep my paper from being all bent and wavy after the painting is done. It may bend a little during the painting process, but as it dries, it restretches, and that leaves me a very flat surface where I could frame and everything pretty easily. Today's painting.
Jen thinks that you're an art goddess.
I like you, Jen. Thank you. Thank you,
I
Jen.
think so, too.
I've had a week, Jen. I've had a week. So happy to be here with you guys today. I'm so happy to be arting. I haven't been able to paint or draw in a really shocking amount of time. Probably one of the longest dry spells in maybe the last 5 or 6 years. So it's been interesting. I definitely miss the art. And it's always so strange when life takes us away from health or emotion or whatever reason from our creative process. And then you have to come back to it because you're like, you get the, what is it they call in sports? The yips. I feel like my last video I had the yips. So bad. But I don't think I'll have the yips today. What I'm supposed to not think about it is the cure for the yips.
I think you're yippy.
It's like being a small Pomeranian. I have the yips.
You had the pigtails for it the other day, too.
I did.
I like when you wear pigtails.
All right. I've got my reference off to the side here if you're wondering what I'm kind of looking at. And again, I have that where you can print that out. And absolutely, it's okay to print that out as a reference. I totally give you permission to do that. Not for sale, but, for reference.
Hold on. I might have a reference. Let me see.
Yeah, I think
that one?
Yeah, there you go. You've got one up in the corner. Yeah, I won't be over there at all, so that's a good and safe place to stick it.
Maybe a little bigger.
There you go. We'll see if we need more palette space than
I can squish down. I can go.
All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to sketch this out. And I really wanted to show this, just an HB pencil. The kind you take you have to do a number 2 for test, but you use an HB pencil like at school, right? Oh, no, it is a number 2. So it's Test Pencil by Dixon. Dixon.
Dun, dun,
dun, dun, dun. Right? And the first thing that I want to do is kind of set the angle of my lollipop. So I'm going to take a T-square, and that's just to help me get a straight line, right? And I'm going to do a slightly angled, but not completely tipped, not like perfectly, just a little bit off that axis of perfectly angled from corner to corner. And I'm going to make a very soft line, right? And if I like that, then I'm going to come over here and angle out another line, maybe a bit over and longer. Let's see how that goes, like this. There. So it's kind of like a little cross, and that's going to be, you can't see that at all. It's a little
you
cross.
You can kind of see them. It's just they're very faint. I see them on the screen here, so they can see them on the screen.
Then very lightly what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a little tiny millimeter, little bit of an inch over, and I'm going to make these are the
That was a magic
sticks.
Trick. You turned a line into a stick.
I turned a line into a stick. Another little line out. Another little stick. They don't have to be perfect, guys. But just try to keep them, as parallel as you can. Right, get that one there. So these are the little sticks, and they are tied together. And I'm going to come in here, and if you ever do have to erase on paper, you want to do it so gently, because what you don't want to do, and you hardly ever see me erase, because you don't want to disturb the sizing. Right. I'm going to make a diagonal line across here. Narrow it there, so it's kind of like a little diamond or a heart in and of itself. Little line there. And I'm going to come up here. My reference, sometimes I have to look at my own reference to see what was I thinking, because I've got the yips. Do you have the yips? Sometimes the yips happen to us all.
You know, one thing about heckling is it just so comes naturally. I don't think I'm ever going to...
That you're ever going to stop?
I don't think I'll ever have the yips.
You'll never have the yips?
When it comes to just being able to sit here and go, that's an interesting tree.
I look, my tree.
Your tree sneezed and just went, Hachoo!
I was like, John, I don't know about that tree. And he's like, it was a great tree.
My favorite tree.
It is. Every time I do something.
If you haven't seen the video of the acrylic trees, you should go watch it. It's the best tree.
Just don't know what was going on with me. So I'm bringing this over in perspective. And you can see how where I join the lines helps turn that ribbon, right? So that it's tender here and it comes out and then come across. And that's what makes that bend in the bow. Hopefully you guys can see it well enough. And again, if it's hard for you to see, now I've tucked this one this time pretty close to the stem. So since I've done that, I will have to pull this other ribbon out underneath it. It's going to have to layer this time. So if ever you're drawing something and you're like, uh-oh, that layering went weird, it's okay. Just change it. Don't stop, erase, and rethink. Don't do that. Even though I have the yips and I'm giving you advice, I'm going to say don't do that, because what happens is you get the most growth in your art from going through a whole process, rethinking everything you do.
Yeah.
Halts it, and you never get past the point where you're stuck. If you want to get past where you're stuck, you're going to have to muscle through that moment, and then in the next painting and the next painting resolve those issues. But you don't want to just stop and go, oh, I will not continue on. I say this because kids do this all the time. They see a mistake because they know what they want in their head so clearly. They stop, they erase, and they start, and they stop and erase. If you want to help a kid grow, you have to lure them. Can't force them. You have to lure them into the idea that completing the project is where the magic is. They never believe you. I'm going to come above my stick and start my heart.
I love completing things, especially when they get to be wrong, and everyone comes and tells me how wrong it is, and then they fix it.
We don't love that as much as you do.
I know.
Make another little line there. And so this is how I set that stem in the candy heart. Do a similar thing here. If you have trouble drawing the heart on its side, what you'll do is just turn your surface. That's all you got to do.
You know what, though? Seriously, we were saying this the other day, especially to the D&D crowd, that you have to look at your paint tubes as unearned experience points. And until the tube is empty, you haven't gotten those experience points. So get to paint. It's like, power crafting or anything else like that. Just got to put the time in.
I'm painting little candy hearts that are going to be going around. You know, the thing about candy is it comes out of a mold, so it's got to be somewhat symmetrical, but maybe your mold was off. Nobody knows. Nobody's reported in on your cooking. No one's in your kitchen criticizing, right?
Maybe
This is
your
your candy.
8-year-old tested one out before she put it in the package because just wanted to make sure it was okay.
Oh, all right. So when you have those in, you've got the basis for, painting it in. I think I'm going to have some fun today. And I'll be painting probably with my 2 Jasper Stardust brushes, which are really Escodas, and this nice little number 10 Aqua Soft to get
And
most of this in. And then at the end, I will do a little acrylic with an acrylic brush and some white acrylic. If you don't have white acrylic to do highlighting with, you could do a jelly pen, which I also have, or you could do gouache.
now,
You say it with me, gouache.
gouache. Now that is Skoda pen, right? Those really fancy ones there.
Mm-hmm.
Now those are good pens. I mean, good brushes. But
Yes.
you could use a regular brush.
Yeah.
But that's just like a +1 brush.
I lost a ferrule.
Oh, that's like a -1 brush. It's like.
So if this ever happens to you, and you can send it back to the manufacturer, but you can also just stick some glue in it.
E500.
E500. It just depends if you like the shipping process or not.
The other stuff is the water-activated Gorilla Glue. It kind of foams out, so as soon as it foams out, you have to wipe it down. But that stuff bonds like crazy, and it's watertight, so it's good stuff.
I'm going to also kind of sketch out some little areas where I'm going to reserve some white mentally. And the reason for that is to do reflections. So where I can practice using my paper, I will do. Curve that one there. Highlight a white. And if you lose any of it, you can always come back with the white paint. So this is that great practice for getting those white reflections reserved. And do a little one here, and then maybe a little kind of triangle friend on that heart.
Those are candy.
Just sometimes it's good, save yourself a little reflection.
Lori was like, "What's that funky handles, man?"
What's the fucking funky? Oh, this funky. So there's an artist on Instagram, Jasper Stardust, and he makes custom watercolors that he does, little limited edition sets where he mills out his own watercolor. If you want to know how to do that, we have a video on how to make watercolor. You can really do that yourself. But he makes custom watercolors. Oh, you can get pigments on Amazon real easy too. So like it's a very easy much easier than sourdough that we all took up in 2020. And then he also makes these beautiful brushes custom. You have to kind of write him and say you want one, and he gives you a price. And then it takes a minute, but it's wonderful. And I believe the wood comes from olive trees in Israel.
Yeah. It's like they're super. Like if you were to look at Lord of the Rings, these would be elven made.
Yeah, these are elven brushes.
They're the like best.
They're the best and the best, sir. So I'm gonna add some opera pink over here to my palette, and I may put out. I've got some Sennelier. I've got the Pyrrole orange. I've got Quinacridone Magenta. I've got a little nickel azo yellow here. I've got opera pink. I could also do transparent Pyrrole orange. I could find my orange tube of something. Well, here's one. So I'm doing Core and Sennelier and Daniel Smith in my watercolors, sometimes Holbein. I like those very much. They make me happy. I don't need that much. You squeeze out a little bit for painting this size. In this, I also might use Hansa Yellow Medium. I might also use a little Ultramarine Blue and Payne's Gray. And Burnt Umber for the stick. So I'll get a few more of those in there. It's listed in the description if you're wanting to know what all the colors are before we begin. But that is what is going on. I'm going to get my brush wet. And I find it's just generally a good idea to start with your lightest color. So I'm going to take my brush, I get it thoroughly wet, and I add water to the side of my little watercolor paint here to thin it. If you're on the pan watercolors, the ones that look like little circles that are dry, you just want to mist those with a water mister to activate those, and you thin it on the palette, the provided palette. So we want this just very, very light. It's okay if a little of it goes over your stick, but you, again, want it to be super light. So I'm even adding water to my brush. I'm lightening it. And watercolor paint, if you were not aware, also lightens as it dries. It's its color shift. I'm just painting that little heart around. If you also want to lift up color, another good trick is to have a paper towel or sponge nearby. Right? Because you can come in and if you'll see, I'll show you here, you can lift up a little bit of color.
Oh, I see.
There are mediums to also help with that. If you need a little help with that, it's not too bad. Get a little bit of this and maybe a bit of my transparent nickel azo yellow. Right? But you could use Hansa yellow medium. It would not be problematic. But it kind of takes it into a little more of a coral. And then kind of darken some of this, maybe a little bit on the outside with a stroke. Oh, there's chat. Opera Pink, says Amy.
Yes, there I gave her chat.
Silver Cloud was like, I thought there was something wrong with those brushes.
Yep. They're
super funny
brushes.
One of the things I like to do is just make sure that here down at the bottom, I'm going to take the brush and kind of tap it up and down.
Tap, 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 tap.
And kind of create that little uneven effect that sometimes candy gives us in its finish. Because unless you polish it, it has sometimes kind of a little bumpy, rough finish. And, you know, it can be nice to try and get that. And come across diagonally. And you'll notice that leaves a little lighter streak sort of there on the side. And I'll tap up and down where I know I have this little reflection that goes in because it's not a perfect to white. And I'll tap a little bit in here. Just kind of varying those up. Isn't that sort of fun to do?
Yeah.
All right. Yellow and the pink again. Maybe get a little stronger in the pink. And let it blend out where the paper is wet a bit and then tap up and down. You know, where you're trying to say, oh, this is like a little candy finish. So you get nice hard edges and soft edges. If I get too much on my stick, I could probably Q-tip, but I'll probably fold some paper towel. And make sure that I lift back up so I don't get too much pigment on there. That's really the trick. Tapping up and down. Now I can take a little bit of this and my Quinacridone Magenta and it together. Maybe add some depth. You can see I'm just on the toe of the brush, tapping up and down.
This is the number 10?
Yeah, this is just the number 10 Aquasoft. You could use any of the brushes that you have in their line. Most of them come to a good enough point where you could use any of the sizes. What's a nice thing about the company is that it just really makes sure that there's a quality point. I'm making a nice dark little outer edge there. Oops. I had a little paper boo-boo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get clean water and come right here. I'm going to lift it up. I'm going to take clean paper towel and pick up my paper boo-boo. You've never seen that. That's how you pick up a paper boo-boo. You've got a minute. All right. I can't see the question, Doc John. If you have that, I would.
Oh.
I'm going to get
Is
a
that
little.
the number 10 you were using?
Oh, that was the question from the question, Doc?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to add a little brown to my pink over here. kind of come in and maybe do a little bit of that stem there. I've got my quinacridone, and it can get into the Payne's gray. Makes kind of a interesting little dark purple. And at the bottom of this candy, I'm going to create some little darker shadow there. You see that? Kind of talking about maybe where the light is kind of blocked by the candy. And come along here and get that. It's looking pretty good, right? A little fun. It's a little fun thing. Now, I may take a little of my kind of brown and pink, and I'll get a little nickel azo into it, and I'm going to come along and just while I'm at it, in a very light color for the stem. For the little stick that goes in there. And I might leave a little edge of white right there, just to preserve that. One of the things I always struggle with students is that, you know, I never want you guys to feel like you've got to go buy certain tools or particular brands of things. And I always try to tell you the brands, you know what I'm using, and maybe that can give you an idea of why I'm getting the result. I will say, oh, Amy, thank you for the wishes on my eyes. They are better. I will say, though, that your tools can impact your experience. They can impact your experience, and they can make the experience easier or more challenging. You can do work with anything. I've seen amazing work done on the back of a car, you know, dirty windshields.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen artists do incredible work. So you can do work in anything, but, you know, dirt on the back of the windshield, isn't it the easiest medium?
You know, human with mop and water at Disney has done really cool things.
It's so true.
I've seen many humans paint with mops, and that was entertaining.
That was super entertaining. I'm going to make a darker color and come along the outside of the stem. Maybe a little pink here. Trying to make it just nice. Yeah, so, you know, be informed, but don't be in your head. You don't want the yips either. Be informed, but don't be in your head.
Only kind of yips I have.
All right, so I've got a bunch of people that paint with me all the time here that do acrylic. I have a really fun project that I may get done tomorrow or this weekend. I don't know. I can't guarantee it. But if you've been interested in that technique where you put down dots and squeegee it, I'm thinking of doing that and showing you guys how to do that. What do you think of that? All right, so I'm going to come along here and continue to do a little dot, dot, dot.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen it, after the show, Google mop painting at Disney, and you'll be amazed.
You will be amazed. You will be
after the show.
Amazed. After the show.
After the show.
After the show.
Don't click away. We need you here.
All right. Now I'm going to be doing the more red hearts, which means I'm going to be more in the Pyrrole Red and the Quinacridone Magenta. I'll still work the yellows in there to warm it up. Maybe the transparent Pyrrole oranges as we go. Let's start a little bit with some transparent Pyrrole orange and some Pyrrole red. Like you do.
Like you do.
Like somebody does. One of us, anyways. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to paint real light.
Now, question.
Answer.
That Tom Lynch palette there.
Mm-hmm.
You like it.
I like it.
But how do you like the lip on it versus just a standard porcelain thingy?
I mean, sometimes I wish it was just a flat piece of porcelain.
The lip kind of sometimes gets in the way.
Like if I was going to design it, I'd have a flat piece of porcelain, and then I would just push my thumb in for places to hold the paint. I'm like, I'm not, you know. But if I was to make my own palette, that's what I would do. John keeps starting to take me down to the local ceramic place and let me get one made because I think that's what I would do.
It would only we would have to have like I don't think if you guys all put in the comments below that yes I would like one of those, then it's really something we could make happen pretty straightforward and probably support a whole bunch of local crafters in the process.
So, but I do like the Tom Lynch palette. I just don't like the lip.
And you know what? Sherpa can have a Sherpa palette. We could do that. That's like all.
I mean, if you think so.
It's really up to all of you. Although one may just make for fun. It'd be cool. We could, if we do small, low productions, we could do little themes.
But I just think right now, I'd just love it if it were just flat and then little thumbprints in there. You know.
Oh, right. The best way to thank you so much. First of all, I want to say thank you, guys. That's such an awesome question, and I appreciate the love and support of the ask. The best way to support us is to be a patron through our website. And if you go to our website and click on patron up on the top, www.theartsherpa.com, we're still in www land. So, that's, we got intertubes connected.
We got intertubes connected.
But anyway, you go to the W land. You don't actually. But you go to there and then click on the patron or just go to /patron. And you'll be brought to the little page where it'll tell you about that. And thank you. And thank you everyone for sharing and commenting and loving and even being here and supporting us.
I am coming in and lifting up some color where I feel like it just went too far out the Lollipop.
The Lollipop bled.
Too much. And I don't want it out that far, so that's why I picked that up. Amy's like, yes, the Sherpa palette. Thank you, Ryan Barnett. Yeah, if you're on Facebook, if it gives you the review at the end of the video, and you don't have to give me 5 stars, you definitely say your experience as an artist. Don't troll, but say your experience as an artist. So it helps other artists make their decision when they're in their learning path. That's another way to help too. Not just stars or any of that, but leaving that review, leaving a comment on YouTube is a nice way to support us because it can help other artists kind of looking to see what they're going to do. I'm adding a little bit of depth of color.
Thank you, Heather.
Come in and just very lightly start the stem in here.
Uh-huh.
And I don't want it to be particularly dark at this stage. I need it to be quite light. And I'll come back with my current color. I just want to have a bit of that red casting to it. As you do.
As you do.
I'm going to get a little of my quinacridone and maybe some ultramarine blue. They make a very nice purple together. I'm going to kind of deepen up a little bit of a shadow here along that reflection, and I'm tapping up and down. Maybe a little bit along, like the bottom of the candy where it gets a little thicker.
Yeah.
That mold. Coming up that side. Yeah, I definitely would do that. I think that the ceramic place is open. Oh, thank you, Heather C. Thank you so much. And I think that I might go by and see if we can't make a few.
Yeah.
Like a handful anyways.
I think that would be just fun.
Just a handful. Nothing crazy.
By an artist. For artists.
Well, that's really all you can do. You just want to be there and support each other.
We'll also try to do it so they're made in America.
I do love...
Global economy is great.
It is great.
It's a wonderful thing. But I also like to have things built here in America. And you know what? I have a lot of friends in Germany and Ireland. They like stuff built in Germany and Ireland too. It's okay.
It totally is okay.
And I'm supportive of that. You want to get into a interesting conversation, talk about the Canadian auto industry. There's some things.
I don't know. I want to be in an auto industry conversation
But I'm
today.
just saying that,
Sir.
like,
I'm just
patriotism
deepening the
for
red on the red lollipop as I'm going.
anyway, just we could all support that stuff. Support
I
your
think
local
I think it's
businesses.
good to
That's it.
support local businesses and artists. I think that. So here's my honest thing on that. If you'd like to know my honest opinion, and you don't have to agree, and you can definitely do what you want to do. I think that if you're in an area and you're touring, I think it's important to support indigenous crafts.
Oh yeah, no, like
And
definitely spend local dollars
I
if you're
think
overseas.
that in like towns and stuff, it's like I like collecting from local artists in any town that I'm in. I it's not that I don't have national artists or famous artists that I'm maybe excited about or into, but it is nice to support maybe I don't put into art for an investment. Though I do believe art can invest in a community and a community identity,
Mm.
right? So I think it's really great, even if you are an artist, and I think a lot of artists do this. Certainly don't feel alone. I'm gonna get some a little of my Pyrrole Red and Quinacridone. To go to like maybe a local craft or art fair, right? And go to that venue or festival and then purchase art from there. I think that's really good. I'm gonna get a little of my
Oh, no, Lori,
orange and
just
red.
I was there's nothing wrong with any of the particular subjects that I was bringing up. Everybody just has like pride in their stuff, and I think it's awesome. Like, so I'm all about pride in people's stuff,
Yeah. Why
and
did
that's
somebody ask a question?
yeah. No, it was just sort of like, is there something amiss in the Canadian industry that we weren't aware of? And I was like, oh
No.
no, they're all cool.
No, the Canadians are pretty cool. Somebody asked a question back up there. Can you scroll back up for me?
Do.
I am using the Pyrrole
Come on, scroll.
orange and Pyrrole red, transparent Pyrrole orange and red to kind of start this.
There, I'll do it
All
easier.
right. Does Cinnamon have a beginner watercolor class like acrylic like we had in November? I do not. I am thinking about doing one. Because I think it would help everybody. And it would be something similar like I think we did that with primary colors, didn't we? Acrylic. I'm trying to remember. I think I did it with a very limited palette with primary colors and simple materials and introduction. So I think I would do a similar thing with this where I'd go maybe into primaries, and it's not like you can have too many watercolors, right? I'm going to come and add this sort of mix of orange and red to all of them.
You see Amy's question there?
No. Can you read it to me while I'm painting in my little heart?
How do you know which colors to use as an undertone?
Well, that training your eye to see the bias of color, right? So you know how like when we talk about skin tone and makeup, we'll say it has a blue undertone or it has a yellow undertone. Looking at those colors and going, if it's going to end up looking warm, it's not going to have a blue in it, right? If it's going to end up looking cool, it's not going to have a lot of orange in it. And so sometimes it's just about making those first little observations. And one of the ways that you can get better at seeing that is just trying to mix colors.
Everybody's in for that idea.
What?
I don't know. Whatever you had, you said, yes, please. Yes, do it. Oh, yes. Please, please,
It's
please,
the
please,
beginner
please.
watercolor class.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. I only sometimes pay attention to what you say.
I know. It's okay. All right. So when that first sort of layer of orange red is on, then we can come back with, say, some more red. I might even get a little of my quinacridone and Pyrrole Red together. And come here and kind of try to paint a very reflective little candy. Come in there and get that. And it's okay to, when that sets a bit, take a wet brush and then kind of blend it out. So you have room for that if you need it. I like it when it's still a little damp, so it softens, but you can do it either way. You'll be okay. And leaving little bits of that orange underneath, and you can always pick up. See, I was able to pick up. The other thing you can do is you can come back and wet an area to kind of do that and also pick up. So you can pick up, you can put down, and you can pick up to create those warm reflections. Kind of on the toe of the brush. The nice thing about a good watercolor brush tap here is that it releases paint in a very predictable way. Once you learn your brush, you really know what it's going to do in most situations. It rarely comes and just surprises you. I'm using Quinacridone Magenta and Pyrrole Red. I might come back into some transparent orange in here and just kind of hit that, like warm that up a bit. And I'm going to lift. There we go. Get that kind of irregular modeled little look. See, isn't that nice how that does that?
Mm-hmm.
Super fun. Okay. So I'm going to take a little of my yellow and let's get some burnt umber in there. We'll go ahead and gray it some. There we go. That's a nice stick color. Get a little stick going there. We gotta think about the little stick going here.
Can you use acrylic brushes for watercolor?
Yes, I wouldn't use watercolor brushes for acrylic, but you can use acrylic brushes for watercolor. Acrylic brushes don't hold as much water or as well, but it's absolutely doable. And there are multimedia brushes that kind of run the fence between those things. Simply Simmons has a line you can find in most art and craft stores that's not the firm filament and not the hog, but it's the sable looking one. And that one goes both ways very easily and holds water well and does acrylic well. It struggles with heavy bodied acrylic. To get a little more gray here.
I would say the thing to be most aware of is that acrylic itself is very hard on brushes because it tends to be difficult to clean. So it can leave more trace elements in the brush, which causes it to flare more and have negative properties like sealing the hairs and fibers, such that you don't want that to happen in watercolor. So it's not that it can't do it, it just has an impact, and you should be aware of those things.
So adding a little dark line on the stems is very nice, right? Even
So
a
you'll
nice little dark line.
sometimes you'll hear people say you can take it one way but not the other. Like you don't use don't use your watercolor in acrylic.
Yeah, acrylic has a very high pH, so it damages all natural hairs deeply. It breaks them and causes them to break and be brittle. The microparticles, as John was talking about, do get in the ferrule and things, and they blow up brushes. So they're acrylic brushes are just much shorter lived. I'm going to come here and add just kind of a nice darker little range on that candy in there. Just some depth, little shadow. Candy shadow.
Mm.
And a little kind of like thing to the side is good. There we go. Just putting in little candy shadows. Candy shadows. We like the shadows. And you can soften those in if you need to.
Mm.
Which just means I take a damp brush and kind of blend it on the paper. You can't do it indefinitely because it will, start to really mess with the sizing of the surface of the paper, but you can do it for a little bit.
So if it's taking more coats to get the same brightness that you're getting, is that why is that?
That's probably your paint. In all likelihood, it could be your load, but it's probably your paint. Watercolor paint is not all pigmented equally. I am wetting the bow with just water.
It's same for acrylic, huh?
Yeah. That's one of the places that the companies get the cost down. And that's fine, except that it can leave you with paint that's duller. Like I tend to not paint Winsor & Newton because I find it to be not as saturated. And if I do paint it, I try to find like old sets. Like really, really older sets of it.
Pre-conglomerate.
Pre-conglomerate sets, yes. All right, so I'm going to take a little of my red here, and I'm going to load it up nicely, and I'm going to come in and just allow it to travel along the waterline. Kind of painting wet into wet, getting that first bit of color there.
On Facebook, we got a homeschooling family. The first time here, they're having a blast.
Homeschooling family? Are you doing art class today?
Kimberly and family.
All right. High fives to the homeschooling families. Many of us got to really feel your experience in 2020. And it's hard, but it's so wonderful. I've actually really gotten to appreciate this time. All right, we're just pulling this out so you can see it's very transparent and soft. The watercolor, the trick with watercolor, if you're very new to it, is the watercolor goes where the water is. Notice it doesn't leave my bow. That's because the only place the water is on my bow. If the paper is dry and I put a brush mark down, it's not going to move around the paper. It's only going to be where the paper is moist. And if I haven't pre-wet it, that keeps it very tight. If I pre-wet all the paper, these would be very blurry. I'm going to get a little of my red and orange again. Kind of come along this edge. Maybe a little bit on this outside edge here. It's just kind of creating a little depth that's happening. So I'm just playing with the natural properties of the paint. Some paint will travel further through the water than others, and that's about if you have a flow agent in the paint, like manufacturers put some in there, like Golden has a lot of flow agent, or Holbein puts no flow agent in because they want the artist to have control over that experience. You can buy flow agents, though, like Oxgall, to add to your water to create an improved blooming if you don't have it in your paint. And that works with any paint. It doesn't have to be expensive paint. I'm going to stroke out a little more red color there, but I'm going to let it taper off. I'm going to try to avoid losing that pretty little bit. There's a thing in art we call passages. So there's this little bit right here. I don't want to lose it. And I don't want to lose that little bit right there. So I'm going to try real hard to preserve it. Sometimes that's a big thing in art, especially in watercolor, to recognize these moments should be left alone. That they're super magic. And that can be hard to do because I have to shadow in here, but gosh, I really like that. So it's like, I'm going to try to leave as much as I can. You leave what you can leave. Trying to get the bend of that bow. You know what I learned today, John?
What'd you learn?
Not today, but recently. I'm not just into Korean dramas. If you follow a lot, you know I like Korean dramas and Korean comedies. And just am super into it. But apparently I'm in to the middle ages of Korea. I'm not going to try to say the name of the kingdom because I know I'm going to say it wrong because I haven't Googled it. But I'm watching Kingdom right now, which is like history plus zombies. it's like Walking Dead Middle Ages, but very historically accurate. Like I've learned a lot about like reading on the production about the dyeing processes of the silks and like what colors. Red is in most cultures is a very difficult color to get. This relates to our Pyrrole Red, which is actually Ferrari red. So one of the most expensive, difficult colors to get in paint or dyes or anything is red.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like every culture, every country has had some red journey. And so I've been really fascinated, like watching these things, like and the purples and just I don't know. It's just, and they're zombies. So there you go. I'm going to continue with my Quinacridone Magenta. Quinacridone Magenta.
Why does it follow the water like that?
It's a capillary effect of the way the pigment in the binder disperses on the surface of the paper. Things that affect it are, of course, the sizing of the paper. Is the paper untreated and so the watercolor goes into the paper? Or is there a surface treatment or sizing on the paper that allows the water to pull pigment and binder in through it? So if you're painting an unsized paper, it actually will paint like it's a washcloth. All right, I'm going to add this little magenta with a slight bit of ultramarine blue as the cast shadow. Look at that. That kind of casts the shadow of that. And then I'll go ahead and come right there along the edge of that ribbon. And join up the edge of that ribbon. I don't want to lose those little bits, so I'm just not going to take them out.
All right.
I'm going to come along the bottom of this with the toe of my brush, and let's put some little shadows that sort of show the wrinkles of that fabric. That's done with just a little bit of shadow. Yeah, if I do a watercolor class and you are doing homeschooling, you'll love it because we'll cover core curriculum that's helpful later if you have anyone that wants to do any art things in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of an art career, so I tend to encourage it.
What I would say is the greatest thing that I got from hanging out with Cinnamon was when I did end up going to art school, I knew what people were talking about. And sometimes it was even like, that's not how that works. You didn't read that chapter, did you?
Well, a lot of times you don't get into the material science or the depth of the color theory or the depth of design. You kind of start with art history, which is amazing.
It was good.
Art history, I wish instead of teaching history, here's what we could do. All the history drama, I can put it to bed. Teach art history.
Yep.
It'll cover everything.
It will.
It will absolutely cover everything and nobody will see it coming. And it's fantastic. And everyone's excited to do art history because it's dramatic and all the people do the things. And you're just like, what? No, he didn't. Wait, what happened? That's just amazing. And you're just like, it's art history. And it covers all the stuff. So, you do good on those SATs, which is super important. Art history. All right, there we go. Skip chapters, says Angela Rollins. And then she's like, teach it, please. If you ever can take some art history, it is worth doing. It will make you rethink the history classes you were drugged through in grade school and high school.
You know what we should
until
do?
You got to college.
We
actually,
should do
for college
Sherpa
too.
Teaches Art History, where we just get you some old college books, and then you can just work through them. Like, so you guys know, this is what happened.
This is what happened.
There were some dudes hanging out.
Channeled Amber Ruffin for like 2 seconds.
Yep. There were some dudes hanging out in a bar in France.
And they couldn't pay their bill.
And so this one Bart guy got super rich.
That's what happened.
That's what
in Goyer. All right. So you can see that we're kind of pulling some of those colors through, and the depth of the color really helps us see how the ribbon is folded and what's going on there.
If we teach art history, it's definitely going to have puppets.
Yeah, you say that every time, and then we get no puppets.
But we get no art history.
Puppets. All right, so we have this, but there's something in art, and this is the number one thing. If you're just here and you're like, what is this lady doing? And
What are you
should I
doing?
listen to her? The one thing you're going to take away when you're painting, the number one first thing that you can do to improve your objects is recognize that solid things block light and cast shadow.
Mm.
You can start dropping shadows under objects, boom, your artwork's already elevated a whole level.
It's grounded.
It's grounded.
You elevated it above the paper.
Above the paper. So I'm going to take a little of my Ultramarine Blue and my Payne's Gray and cast kind of a light gray blue. And how I'm going to do my shadow is I'm going to come along, say, right underneath the stick.
Oh, you're wetting?
And alongside the Lollipop, and I'm going to wet out a little bit.
Ah, okay.
But here, I'm going to pull that wet area a little bit away from the stick. I'm going to take a light gray.
Oh, it's like a drop shadow.
A little bit. And I'm going to be in that light shadow that's being cast under there.
Melinda on Facebook loves Kingdom.
Oh, man. Like, I did not expect to love it this much. I don't know why we all talked about Squid Game, because Kingdom is like, okay, don't watch it if violence is, and zombies are not a thing, and you don't like period costumes. Like, if you didn't like period stuff and you didn't like zombies, it would not be your jam. But if you're like, Walking Dead was pretty cool, or Resident Evil was pretty cool, then yeah, you're going to like this. This is wild. It's wild. And you learn some history things that are fascinating, because they kind of based it in some stuff that was actually going on in that same period. I'm going to come along here and I'm going to do a similar thing. A little bit out from the stick, guys. Just a little bit out from the stick coming in. And then it gets closer as it comes around the Lollipop. So I really, really enjoyed it. All right, there we go. And you can see how where it pulls away from the stick, what does that make your eye think? It makes you think that it's lifted up or tipped up from the page. If the shadow is touching or close to the object, that object is really close to the page. If you see a distance between the shadow and the object, that might mean that there's some light kind of casting and you're seeing its three-dimensionality. So that's a way to create that. Angela's like, a new zombie show to watch. And Darcy says, I was taking art history. I loved it 100% also. Yeah, it's just, you're just like, you sit there through art history and go, like, so much more than any other history. You're like, this just got real.
Now, if you wanted to just take a piece of 40-pound watercolor cardstock, fold it in half.
You could make a card. And
paint the front as a card. Would you need to seal it at all?
Nah, you don't. I mean, they have sealants now for watercolor, but you don't need to. It's an optional choice that you have.
The pigment binds right into the paper.
Yeah, it really does. So, and they'll mail just fine. Adding a little bit of shadow to that heart.
In an envelope. Envelope.
Envelope.
Envelope.
Come along,
envelope.
Here, and I'm going to come out a little bit from the loop. And then I'll come along here.
Into a mailable pocket.
Mailable pocket. And, oh, if you're wanting to do watercolor cards, and we can make sure that we do them for the holidays this fall if you guys like this idea, they sell them at Michael's already made. Like, it's 140-pound watercolor paper. It's a card. It's got a deckled edge. It's got the envelope. You just paint the card and send it off. I used to do that. When I didn't do YouTube and I had a little more free time, I used to send watercolor cards that were hand painted. The thing to be ready for is people not keeping them. We're going to soften the edge of that shadow a bit. So that's the thing that's hard about sending handmade watercolor cards is that you put a lot of love and effort into it. And sometimes they don't get saved. And that can be a little bit hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that it still was worth it to me. I'm going to just make sure I have a little drop shadow here too, just real quick. There we go. Isn't that nice? I like putting in the shadows. It's just relaxing. Tammy says I got some blank watercolor cards. Yeah, they're very cool. You can get a watercolor postcard as well. They have those as well for sale, and they're not very expensive.
They don't need to be sealed though. It's still just.
Lori Hoover has a recommendation of The Lost Leonardo as a movie to watch right now.
We'll have to investigate.
Guess what?
What?
Short of putting out some highlights a couple places.
Highlights.
So you can take.
No, you got to do it in falsetto. Highlights. There you go.
You can take some white acrylic, right, which I have here, and an acrylic pen. Or you can use, if you have them around, jelly pens. So this is a jelly pen. See this jelly pen?
I see it.
Right, so you could come along here and add a little bit of a detailed reflection. See? So that's what that would look like.
Oh.
Or if I feel like it, I can come in with some white acrylic. Or gouache.
Where are you doing that at? Oh.
I'm going to do that over here.
Oh. Camera too fast.
The little highlights kind of make it seem like a satin ribbon. And if you don't want to use a Frisket liquid masking agent, this is just a good alternative. Do you guys see the strawberry cow that's coming up? That's the next lesson.
Oh.
In the watercolor, which will actually be on Wednesday. The strawberry cow I actually did for my kids because all my kids love strawberry cows. They were like, strawberry cow, strawberry milk cow is what it is. It's a whole trend.
What do you think about that wax sealants?
I love it.
Love
Orland's wax, fantastic. Protects work, keeps pages from sticking together. I think we need to do a video on how to apply it, though they have some very good consumer resources, so they will help you.
Neat.
Do we have anything in our chat for Facebook, for a Facebook art family?
I've been asking them as they go. Terry was just asking, how would you seal to make water resistant for postcard?
I would probably do Dorland's wax on it, or I might even do a spray varnish just to seal it so it's just not. So the thing with the postcard is that postcards are exposed to all the mail, the open mail, right?
Mm.
And they can pick up inks or pigments and everything from the mailing process. So I might still be inclined to put my postcard in an envelope. Just because if you think about like those, like the carbons and stuff that can be in the mailing process and the little greases and grit, if you've seen your envelope, sometimes they don't come pristine white. Not blaming the Postal Service workers, who I think are American heroes and I love.
We support the Postal Service as our shipping method of choice here at the Art Sherpa.
Yeah.
So if you buy anything from us off our store, that's our website. Now that may change in the future because we may be partnering with some other people to do some stuff, but anything that we ship out of our studio right now is coming Postal Service, and we're going to try to do that with all of our partnerships moving forward.
There we go. I've added little reflections. Let's back up and see how do our lollipops look today. Lollipop, lollipop, oh, oh,
Now they were asking Jen says the bottom heart candy doesn't seem to be shadow.
It needs a shadow. Thank you guys.
It's
I
shadowless.
forgot it's shadow.
Not trying to throw any shade, but we need to drop a shadow.
It does. Thank you for catching that, guys. Because it does need one. There we go. A little shadow there. It needed it, didn't it?
It did.
It did. Now I can get back into this.
What was that?
Signing.
Oh!
Okay. So, man, it's been fun. I loved today. I didn't end up using my Jasper Stardust, which is so funny because I painted the original, but I just got into this one today.
You just got into the brush.
Sometimes you get into a brush. Oh, thank you, Farah. Thank you. And if you're doing stars, thank you. And I hope you guys are enjoying that process. We really appreciate you. We appreciate everyone who takes the time to show up, your time, your effort, your energy, the humor that you have in your comments, your insightful questions. If you're watching this on replay and you missed the live, leave a question on YouTube in the comments or email us at support@theartsherpa.com. On Facebook, it can be hard to find old questions on videos because of the way it notifies me. But you know what you can do?
What can you do?
You can join our private Facebook group, which we super curate.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, we do. We approve posts and we curate what's in there. You can share your artwork from the lessons. And if you have a question about like this lesson, you could post that picture and be like, hey, or if you just want to share what you did. We are family friendly in the group.
And
so we ask that everybody participates in creating a family friendly space in the group. So if you're joining, because we have all ages from all like 250 countries, and we just try to make a space that's sort of neutral and happy for everybody.
Everyone trying to sell those $2 sunglasses, we keep them out. None of that in there.
No, none of it. None of it.
You have to go someplace else for your $2 sunglasses.
There will be no coupons. No, actually, we allow art coupons through.
But yeah, just like not random junk.
We do keep it a very safe space. So whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, if you want to join the group and share your heart paintings, also people are nice in there, or they find another place to be because nice is the only option.
Nice is the rule.
Nice is the rule. You gotta be nice.
It's a place for everyone, not just you.
Yeah. So we all work very hard to keep it. And I'm very proud of the group. I think it's a really good space. We have a lot of great moderators, and I really like it. It's a place to share. If you want to share something privately, you can always write support@theartsherpa.com. I even take critique as long as there's not a lot of cuss words in it. So,
like, what happened to your tree?
Lori Huber, is Facebook mostly for watercolors or acrylic? It's both. It's any of my lessons, period.
I'm out of coffee.
Any of my lessons, period.
Cinnamon. I'm out of coffee.
I'm out of coffee too. Does that mean we have to go? Okay.
That was the last of my lukewarm sip, and I'm dissatisfied.
I gotta go buy some squeegee so I can teach this dot class.
Let's do it.
Squeegee. It'll be super fun. So in the meantime, be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at a diesel really soon. Bye-bye.